Wraith's claws scraped against the metal floor as he burst into the nesting chamber for the third time that hour. Empty. Still empty. The soft blankets he had arranged so carefully lay scattered across the raised platform. But his 3 hatchlings were gone. His pale white scales caught the dim blue lighting of Halcyon Deep Station as panic surged through his chest. Frost, Pearl, and Ash had been sleeping when he left to collect their feeding mixture just 2 hours ago. 2 hours. That was all the time he had been away from them. The albino dragon pressed his snout to the blankets, breathing in their faint scent. So young, barely 3 weeks old. They needed warmth every 4 hours and special food every 6. Without him, they would not survive long in the cold corridors of this frontier station. Wraith straightened and let out a low call, a sound that rumbled through the walls. He listened. Nothing came back to him. His heart hammered in his chest as he stepped into the corridor and activated the communication panel on the wall. This is Guardian Wraith. My hatchlings are missing from Sector 12. I need immediate assistance. The response came within seconds. Commander Orvik's deep voice filled the hallway. Guardian, we are activating all security protocols now. Every sensor in your sector is being checked. Wraith barely heard him. He was already moving, his large body flowing through the passages with surprising speed. His kind had guarded stations like this for generations. They bonded to these places, protected them, kept order among the various species who lived and worked in the dark between stars. But none of that mattered now. Only his babies mattered. The corridor branched in 4 directions. Wraith paused and lowered his head, breathing deeply. There, a trace of their scent, so faint he almost missed it. He turned left and followed it, his mind racing. How had they gotten out? The nesting chamber door required his specific code to open. The ventilation shafts were too small even for hatchlings. Yet somehow they had vanished without triggering a single alarm. Other residents pressed themselves against the walls as Wraith passed. A group of Tantari merchants froze mid-conversation. A pair of Grell engineers stopped their work to watch him go by. Everyone on Halcyon Deep knew the albino dragon. Most had never seen him move with such urgency. Guardian Wraith. A voice called out. Dr. Yuki Tanaka jogged to keep pace with him. The human scientist had arrived on the station 6 months ago with the first wave of her people. I heard the alert. Can I help? Wraith did not slow down. My hatchlings are missing. They are too young to survive alone. How long have they been gone? 2 hours. Maybe less. Yuki pulled out her data pad and began typing as she ran beside him. I'm checking the sensor logs now. Wait, that is strange. There is no record of movement in your sector during that time. Impossible. Wraith stopped at another junction and tested the air again. They went this way. The sensors say nothing passed through here. Then your sensors are wrong. Wraith continued forward. The scent was growing stronger now. They had definitely come this direction. The trail led him through the merchant quarter, past the hydroponics bay, and toward the outer ring of the station where the residential sectors began. More species lived here. Families who had made Halcyon Deep their permanent home. Commander Orvik's voice crackled through the station-wide system. All residents, please check your quarters for 3 albino dragon hatchlings. They are small, approximately the size of house cats, and completely white. Do not attempt to capture them. Contact security immediately if you see them. Wraith's anxiety spiked. What if someone scared them? What if they tried to run and got hurt? Hatchlings were fragile. Their bones had not fully hardened yet. Guardian, the scent trail is leading toward the human residential sector, Yuki said quietly. Wraith glanced at her. Humans were still new to the galactic community. Most species kept their distance, unsure what to make of these strange bipeds who smiled too much and formed emotional attachments too quickly. The human section of Halcyon Deep was isolated by choice and by circumstance. Would they go there? Yuki asked. I did not know why they would go anywhere, Wraith replied. They have never left the nesting chamber before. They should still be too afraid of open spaces. But the trail did not lie. His hatchlings had come this way, moving through corridors they had never seen, past species they had never encountered. Something had drawn them out. Something had called to them. Wraith picked up speed. The human sector was just ahead. He could see the different style of doors, the markings in human languages, the smaller scale of everything. Built for creatures much tinier than most galactic species. There, Yuki pointed. That door is open. Just slightly. Wraith approached the entrance to Family Habitat Unit 47. The door hung open by perhaps 3 inches. Just enough space for a small hatchling to squeeze through. The scent was overwhelming now. All 3 of his babies had entered this place. He raised one claw to push the door wider, then hesitated. Humans were easily frightened. Bursting into their home unannounced might cause problems. But his children were inside. Nothing would stop him from reaching them. Wraith pushed the door open and stepped into the human dwelling. The interior of the human habitat was smaller than Wraith expected. He had to lower his body to fit through the entrance, his wings folded tight against his sides. The space smelled of unfamiliar things. Synthetic fabrics, processed foods, and underneath it all, the distinct scent of humans. But stronger than anything else was the smell of his hatchlings. They were close, very close. Yuki followed him inside, calling out softly, "Hello, is anyone home? This is Dr. Tanaka. There has been an emergency. Please do not be alarmed." No response came. The main living area was quiet. Wraith moved forward carefully, trying not to knock over the furniture that seemed designed for creatures half his size. His tail brushed against a small table, sending a framed photograph spinning. Yuki caught it before it fell. The habitat had 3 rooms branching off from the central space. 2 doors were closed. One was open. Wraith moved toward the open door, his claws clicking softly on the floor. With each step, his hearts beat faster. Were they safe? Were they hurt? He reached the doorway and looked inside. The room was dark except for a small light shaped like a star that glowed on a shelf. It cast soft shadows across walls covered in drawings. Pictures of space stations and ships and creatures from a dozen different species. And dragons. So many drawings of dragons. Then Wraith saw them, in the center of the room, on a nest of blankets and pillows spread across the floor. His 3 hatchlings slept in a tight cluster. Their white scales seemed to glow in the dim light. Frost had his head tucked under Pearl's wing. Ash was curled against both of them, his tiny chest rising and falling with deep breaths. And wrapped around all 3 of them was a small human child. She could not have been more than 6 years old. Her dark hair spread across the pillows. Her arms encircled Pearl's body in a gentle embrace. One of her hands rested on Frost's back. The hatchlings were pressed against her, as if seeking her warmth, her comfort, her protection. All 4 of them were deeply asleep. Wraith stood frozen in the doorway. His mind could not process what he was seeing. His hatchlings had been restless since they hatched. They barely slept. They cried often. He had spent every night walking with them, soothing them, trying to help them settle. Nothing had worked. Yet here they were, sleeping peacefully with a creature they had never met before. A human child who should have been a stranger to them. "Oh my God," Yuki whispered behind him. She had pulled out her data pad and was recording the scene. "This is incredible. Guardian, they bonded with her." "How?" Wraith's voice came out rough. "They do not bond this quickly. It takes months, sometimes years. Look at the ventilation shaft." Yuki pointed to a grate on the wall near the floor. It had been removed and set aside. That must be how they got in. But why would they come here? Wraith had no answer. He stepped into the room slowly, making no sound despite his size. He needed to take his hatchlings home. They needed their feeding mixture. They needed the heat lamps. They needed him. But as he reached toward them, Pearl stirred. The hatchling lifted her head and looked at Wraith with sleepy eyes. Then she looked down at the human child and settled back down, tucking herself closer to the small girl. She let out a soft chirp, a sound of contentment. Wraith had never heard that sound from his hatchlings before. Frost and Ash remained asleep. The human child shifted slightly, her grip tightening around Pearl. She murmured something in her sleep, words Wraith could not understand. "We should wake them," Yuki said. "The family could return at any moment. Imagine coming home to find an albino dragon in your daughter's bedroom." She was right, but Wraith could not bring himself to disturb the scene. His hatchlings looked so peaceful, so content. After weeks of crying and restlessness, they had finally found rest. Guardian, Yuki touched his foreleg gently. We need to move them. Before Wraith could respond, voices echoed from the main living area. The front door opened. Two adult humans entered, speaking quietly to each other. Then they saw Yuki standing in the hallway. Their conversation stopped abruptly. Dr. Tanaka, a man's voice filled with confusion and growing alarm. What are you doing in our home? Please remain calm, Yuki said, stepping out to meet them. There has been a situation. Guardian Wraith's hatchlings went missing, and hatchlings? A woman's voice this time, sharp with fear. Where is Lily? Where is our daughter? She is safe, Yuki assured them. She is in her room, but you need to prepare yourselves before you go in there. Wraith heard footsteps rushing toward him. He turned as two humans appeared in the doorway. The man was tall for his species, with dark skin and wide eyes. The woman was shorter, her face pale with terror. They both froze when they saw him. Your daughter is unharmed, Wraith said quickly. The hatchlings came to her on their own. I do not understand why, but they are sleeping together. All of them are safe. The woman, who must be the child's mother, pushed past Wraith without hesitation. She dropped to her knees beside the nest of blankets, her hands hovering over her daughter as if afraid to touch her and wake whatever spell had been cast. Lily, she breathed. Baby, wake up. The girl stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked at her mother with a sleepy smile. Mama, I was having the best dream. Then she saw Wraith looming in the doorway. Her eyes went wide, but there was no fear in them. Instead, her face lit up with joy. You came, she said. I knew you would come looking for them. They were so sad. I heard them crying through the wall every night. So I called to them, and they came to me. Are you there, Papa? Wraith could not find words to respond. The girl sat up carefully, keeping the hatchlings close to her body. Frost yawned and stretched, his tiny claws extending. Ash chirped softly and nuzzled against the child's leg. Pearl remained curled in her lap, eyes half closed in contentment. Lily, move away from those creatures, her father said, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. Slowly, come to me. But Papa, they're not scary, Lily said. She stroked Pearl's head with surprising gentleness. They're just babies. They were lost and scared, like we were when we first came to the station. Her mother reached forward. Sweetheart, please, they needed someone, Lily continued, her voice taking on the serious tone that children use when explaining something important to adults. I could hear them crying through the air vent. Every night. Such sad crying. So I talked to them. I told them it was okay. That being in a new place is hard, but it gets better. Wraith lowered himself to the floor, making his body less imposing. How long have they been coming to you? Lily looked at him with those wide human eyes. They only came inside last night, but I've been talking to them for many days. Maybe 10 days. I put food and water by the vent. They were too scared to come all the way in at first. 10 days, Wraith repeated. His hatchlings had been restless for exactly that long. He had thought they were simply adjusting to life outside the egg. But they had been hearing this child's voice, responding to her calls. What did you say to them? Yuki asked, kneeling beside the group. She kept her data pad ready, but her voice was soft. I told them about when we left our old home. How scary it was. How everything was different, and I did not know anyone. Lily's small hand continued to stroke Pearl's scales. I told them that I was scared too, that I cried at night sometimes because I missed the sun and the grass and having friends. But I said it would be okay, that we would find new friends here. Her father made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Lily, you never told us you were that scared. I did not want to make you more sad, Papa. You and Mama were already so sad about losing the house and having to come to space. The mother covered her face with her hands. Wraith could smell the salt of human tears. Pain and relief mixed together in a way he recognized from his own species. Yuki cleared her throat. Guardian, we should contact medical. Have everyone checked. And we need to inform Commander Orvik that the hatchlings have been found. Wraith nodded, but did not move. He watched as Frost climbed up onto Lily's shoulder and rubbed his face against her cheek. The hatchling had never shown such affection to anyone, not even to Wraith himself. I do not understand, he said quietly. Bonding takes time. Trust must be built slowly. My people study this carefully. It should not happen so fast. Maybe your people have not met humans before, Lily said simply. She smiled at him. Are you going to take them away now? I know they are yours. I was not trying to steal them. I just wanted them to feel better. The innocence in her words hit Wraith harder than any weapon could have. This small creature had heard his children crying and had responded with nothing but kindness. No hositashchen, no fear, just an open heart and gentle words in the darkness. I did not know what to do, Wraith admitted. It was not something he would normally say to a stranger. But somehow this child made honesty easy. Can I ask something? Lily's father spoke up. He had moved closer, though he still watched the hatchlings with nervous eyes. Why were they crying? Are they sick? No, they are healthy. Wraith struggled to find the right words. They have been unsettled since hatching. Nothing I do seems to calm them for long. I thought perhaps they sensed something wrong with the station. Or with me. I began to wonder if I was failing them. You are not failing them, Lily said with absolute certainty. They just needed a friend. Everyone needs friends. Pearl chirped in agreement, and Lily giggled. The sound made all three hatchlings perk up. Ash began to purr, a rumbling sound that Wraith had read about in the bonding text, but never actually heard from his own children. Commander Orvik's voice suddenly filled the room from the communication panel on the wall. Guardian Wraith, security is reporting your location. Are the hatchlings secure? Yuki activated the panel. Commander, this is Dr. Tanaka. The hatchlings are safe, but we have an unusual situation here. I think you should come see this in person. On my way. The next 20 minutes passed in a strange blur. Lily's parents, who introduced themselves as David and Mai, slowly relaxed as they watched their daughter interact with the hatchlings. Medical staff arrived and ran scans on everyone, confirming that all were healthy and unharmed. Commander Orvik arrived with 3 security officers and stopped dead in the doorway. The massive Tentari had seen many strange things in his years running Halcyon Deep, but clearly nothing had prepared him for the sight of a human child sitting cross-legged on the floor, giggling as 3 albino dragon hatchlings climbed over her like she was a living playground. This is not normal bonding behavior, Orvik said to Wraith. I know, this should not be possible so quickly. I know, the xenobiologists are going to lose their minds when they hear about this. I know. Lily looked up at the commander and waved. Hello, I am Lily. These are my friends Frost and Pearl and Ash. Do you want to pet them? They like it when you are gentle. Orvik's 4 arms hung limp at his sides. I have commanded this station for 12 years. Nothing surprises me anymore. Except this. This surprises me. Yuki was taking notes rapidly on her datapad. Commander, I think we are seeing something unprecedented here. Human emotional capacity might be more compatible with other species than we realized. The child's empathy somehow reached the hatchlings through the ventilation system. They responded to her distress calls because they recognized the emotion. Fear calling to fear. Loneliness calling to loneliness. That is a very romantic theory, Dr. Orvik said. But bonding requires. Ash chose that moment to spread his tiny wings and hop from Lily's lap to Wraith's foreleg. The hatchling climbed up his father's body and settled on his back, then chirped insistently until Wraith moved closer to Lily. Once he was near enough, Ash hopped back onto the girl's head and sat there like a crown, clearly pleased with himself. Or perhaps the romantic theory is correct. Orvik finished. The medical bay hummed with activity as xenobiologists and behavior specialists crowded around the observation window. Inside the room, Lily sat at a small table with Frost, Pearl, and Ash arranged around her. Wraith watched from one corner while her parents stood near the door, still uncertain about the entire situation to Dr. Yuki led the examination. She placed various objects on the table, small toys, and puzzles designed for hatchling development. The test was simple. Would the hatchlings respond better to Wraith's commands or to Lily's presence? Frost, come here please. Wraith called in his own language, a series of low rumbles and clicks. The hatchling looked at him, then looked at Lily. The girl smiled and nodded. It is okay. Go see your papa. Only then did Frost move toward Wraith, though he kept glancing back at Lily, as if to make sure she was still there. Yuki made notes on her datapad. Interesting. The hatchling seeks permission from both bonded parties. This suggests a dual attachment rather than a replacement bond. What does that mean? Mai asked. She had barely taken her eyes off Lily since they arrived at medical. It means the hatchlings have not replaced Guardian Wraith with your daughter. They have added her to their family structure. Yuki paused. I have never seen this documented before. Usually when young creatures bond, they bond to one primary caregiver. David rubbed his face with both hands. So what happens now? Do they need to stay with Lily? Does she need to stay with them? We have jobs, school programs starting next month. We cannot just— Nobody is suggesting permanent changes yet, Commander Orvik interrupted. He had been standing in the back of the room, observing everything with his forearms crossed. But we cannot ignore what has happened here. The hatchlings are healthier now than they have been since hatching. Their stress markers are down significantly. Wraith knew it was true. He could see it in the way they moved, the brightness in their eyes, the way they played instead of just crying and sleeping. In one night with this human child, his babies had transformed. Tell us about your family, Yuki said to David and Mai. How did you come to be on Halcyon Deep? Mai glanced at David before answering. Our colony failed. The terraforming did not work as planned. Everyone had to evacuate. We lost our home, our business, everything we had built. The only work we could find was here on the station. We arrived 6 months ago, and it has been difficult, very difficult, David admitted. Most species here do not trust humans yet. We are too new, too different. Our daughter has had no friends, no children to play with. We work long hours trying to save enough money to relocate somewhere better. Lily spends most of her time alone in our quarters. Lily looked up from the table where she was showing Pearl how to stack small blocks. I was not alone. I had the crying babies to talk to. Something clicked in Wraith's mind. 2 broken families. One of a species, one human. Both dealing with fear and isolation. Both try to survive in a place that felt foreign and cold. His hatchlings had sensed a kindred spirit in this child. Someone who understood their distress because she felt it too. They recognized each other, Wraith said slowly. Not just as individuals, but as creatures experiencing the same pain. Yuki nodded eagerly. Yes, that is exactly what I think happened. Humans have an unusual capacity for emotional projection. Other species feel emotions, of course, but humans broadcast them differently, stronger, more openly. Your hatchlings picked up on Lily's emotional state through the ventilation system. Are you saying my daughter was crying so loudly the dragons heard her? Mai's voice shook slightly. Not crying with sound, Yuki explained. Crying with presence, with the weight of her loneliness. And she did not just broadcast pain. She also broadcast hope. She told them things would get better. That message reached them on a level that bypassed normal bonding protocols. Pearl abandoned the blocks and climbed into Lily's lap. The girl wrapped her arms around the hatchling and pressed her face against the white scales. Both of them closed their eyes, perfectly content. This is going to change everything, one of the xenobiologists whispered to another. If humans can bond with other species this easily, this naturally, it means we have been isolating them for no reason, Orvik finished. We kept the humans separate because we did not understand them. We were cautious. But perhaps caution has been cruelty. Wraith moved closer to Lily and his hatchlings. The girl looked up at him with no trace of fear. How strange that must be, he thought, for such a small creature to feel safe around something so much larger. I need to ask you something important, Wraith said to her. Will you help me take care of them? They need me for food and warmth and teaching. But they seem to need you for something else. Something I cannot give them alone. Lily's face lit up. Really? You want me to help? If your parents agree. The hatchlings would still live with me. But perhaps you could visit. Spend time with them. Continue being their friend. David and I looked at each other. A silent conversation passed between them. What would this involve? David asked carefully. Yuki pulled up information on her datapad. Guardian Wraith's quarters are in Sector 12, large enough to accommodate visitors. If we relocated your family to adjacent quarters, Lily could have supervised access to the hatchlings daily. We would need to establish schedules, safety protocols, educational guidelines. You want us to move sectors? Mais interrupted. The station will cover all relocation costs, Orvik said. And frankly, Sector 12 is nicer than where you are now. Larger spaces, better facilities. Consider it compensation for your daughter's unexpected childcare duties. This is insane, David muttered. But he was looking at Lily, seeing how happy she was with the hatchlings, and his resistance was crumbling. Please, Papa, Lily asked. They need me, and I need them too. I have been so lonely. My wipe her eyes. You should have told us, baby. There was nothing you could do. You were sad too. I heard you crying sometimes when you thought I was asleep. Lily held Pearl closer. But now we can all be less sad together. Wraith felt something shift in his chest. This small human had taught him something important in just a few hours. Strength was not just about protection and provision. Sometimes the greatest strength was admitting you needed help, that you could not do everything alone. We will try it, David said finally. If Guardian Wraith truly wants this arrangement. Ido, Wraith replied. My children chose your daughter. I will honor that choice. Ash climbed onto Lily's shoulder and chirped happily. Frost did a little spinning dance on the table. Pearl simply purred, a sound that vibrated through the entire room. Commander Orvik activated his communication device. Give me housing administration. We have a priority relocation to arrange. 3 weeks passed. The relocation happened faster than anyone expected. The station administrators, eager to observe this unprecedented bonding situation, cleared the quarters adjacent to Wraith's nesting chamber within days. David and I found themselves living in a space 3 times larger than their previous home, with viewports that actually showed the stars instead of just corridor walls. But the real transformation was happening between the families themselves. Wraith stood in his nesting chamber watching Lily teach the hatchlings a human game called hide and seek. Frost had discovered he could squeeze behind the heat lamp unit. Pearl kept trying to hide under the blankets, but her tail stuck out. Ash simply closed his eyes and stood in the middle of the room, apparently believing that if he could not see Lily, she could not see him. I found you, Ash, Lily said, gently touching the hatchling's nose. You have to hide your whole body, not just your eyes. Ash chirped indignantly, but his tail wagged with happiness. Mai appeared in the doorway, carrying a container of the special feeding mixture Wraith had taught her to prepare. Time for their mid-cycle meal, she announced. She no longer hesitated when entering the nesting chamber. The fear had faded, replaced by comfortable familiarity. Already, Lily groaned. But we were just starting to play. They need to eat every 6 hours, sweetheart. You know this. Mai set the container down and began portioning it into 3 smaller bowls. Besides, you have a math lesson in an hour. Wraith had learned that human children required constant education. Lily studied subjects through a computer system every day. She had asked him to teach her dragon language during her free time, and he had agreed. In return, she was teaching him about human customs and what she called feelings talk, the strange way humans discuss their emotions so openly. The hatchlings rushed to their food bowls, but Pearl paused first to nuzzle against Mai's leg in thanks. Such small gestures of affection came naturally now. They had learned them from watching Lily interact with her parents. David arrived a few minutes later, his work shift finished. He carried a bag of supplies from the station market. I found those mineral supplements you mentioned, Guardian. The vendor said they came from your home region. Thank you. Wraith accepted the bag carefully, mindful of his claws. Your assistance has been valuable. David smiled, though he still looked tired. Working 2 jobs to save money was exhausting, but he seemed less burdened than before. It is strange how quickly this became normal. A month ago, I never imagined I would be shopping for dragon vitamins. A month ago, I never imagined I would be learning human bedtime songs. Wraith replied. Lily had insisted that the hatchlings needed lullabies before sleep. She had been right. They settled faster when she sang to them. Yuki arrived for her daily observation session, accompanied by 2 other researchers. The study of the bond between Lily and the hatchlings had become the most documented case in xenobiology. Scientists from across the galaxy were requesting access to the data. How are our subjects today? Yuki asked, already pulling out scanning equipment. Thriving, Wraith reported. Frost is developing faster than expected. His wings are strong enough for short gliding now. Pearl's cognitive tests show advanced problem solving. Ash has begun vocalizing in more complex patterns. And all of this improvement correlates with increased time spent with Lily. Yuki made notes. The emotional stability she provides allows them to focus energy on development rather than stress response. Lily finished her food and immediately climbed onto Wraith's back, a position she had claimed as her special spot. The hatchlings followed, scrambling up to join her. All four of them created a pile on top of the large dragon. Family bonding time, David asked, amused. It appears so, Wraith rumbled. He did not mind. The weight of the child and his hatchlings felt right. Complete, Mai sat down beside her husband, leaning against his shoulder. Commander Orvik told me something interesting today. 3 other families on the station have requested to meet us. Non-human families. They want their children to have playdates with Lily. Really? David sat up straighter. Why? Because everyone has been watching how this arrangement worked out. How successful it has been. Other species are reconsidering their assumptions about humans. Mai's voice grew soft. He said we are becoming ambassadors without even trying. Just by being kind to a dragon and his babies. Yuki nodded enthusiastically. It is spreading through the station network. The story of a human child and the albino hatchlings. Other stations are hearing about it too. I have received inquiries from xenobiologists on 15 different worlds asking about human empathy markers and bonding compatibility. We are famous. Lily asked from her perch on Wraith's back. You are important, Wraith corrected gently. You showed everyone that different species can be family. That fear of the unknown should not prevent connection. Frost chose that moment to attempt his first real flight. He spread his wings, kicked off from Wraith's back, and glided across the room. He made it almost 3 meters before landing in a tumbling roll. But instead of crying from the rough landing, he chirped in triumph and ran back to try again. Everyone cheered. Lily clapped her hands. You did it, Frost. You flew. Pearl and Ash immediately wanted to try too. For the next 20 minutes, the room filled with hatchlings launching themselves through the air with varying degrees of success. Lily supervised from the floor, offering encouragement and checking for injuries after each landing. David watched his daughter with wonder in his eyes. 6 months ago, she was terrified on this station. She would not leave our quarters unless we forced her. Now look at her, confident, happy, teaching dragons how to be brave. They taught each other, Mai said. The hatchlings learned courage from her. She learned that she could be needed and valuable from them. Wraith understood the truth in those words. His hatchlings had given Lily purpose when she felt purposeless. Lily had given them emotional safety when they felt lost. It was not about one saving the other. It was about walking through difficulty together. Commander Orvik's voice suddenly came through the communication panel. Guardian Wraith, are you available for a station-wide broadcast? We would like to make an announcement regarding human integration policies. Wraith glanced at David and Mai. What kind of announcement? Based on the success of your family arrangement, the Station Council has voted to actively recruit human families for community integration programs. We want to create more opportunities for cross-species interaction. Your cooperation has proven that isolation was the wrong approach. They want to use us as an example, David said quietly. If you are comfortable with that, Orvik clarified, we will not force anything, but the galaxy needs to see what you have built here. A human family and a dragon guardian, raising children together, breaking down barriers. Lily slid off Wraith's back and stood between her parents. Can we do it? Can we help other humans feel welcome like you helped us? Ma looked at David. He looked at Wraith. The dragon dipped his head in acknowledgement. Whatever these humans decided, he would support. They were family now. That meant standing together. We will do the broadcast, David said. If it helps other families find acceptance, then our story should be shared. Yuki practically glowed with excitement. This is going to change interspecies relations across multiple sectors. The data alone will rewrite bonding theory. But Wraith was not thinking about theories or politics. He was watching Ash finally achieve a successful glide, landing perfectly on his feet. The hatchling immediately ran to Lily for praise, and she scooped him up in a hug. That was what mattered. Not the science, not the fame, just this moment. This family that should not exist, but did anyway. 6 months changed everything. Wraith walked through the central plaza of Halcyon Deep with Frost, Pearl, and Ash flying circles above his head. They were larger now, each nearly the size of a full-grown human. Their flying skills had improved dramatically. They swooped and dove with the confidence of young dragons who knew they were safe. Lily ran ahead, laughing as she tried to keep up with them. She was taller now, too, growing the way human children did, fast and unpredictable. Her parents followed at a more sedate pace, carrying bags from the market. Other families waved as they passed. A Tentari mother with her 3 children. A Grell father teaching his daughter to use the public information terminals. A mixed group of human and non-human children playing some complicated game that seemed to involve a lot of running and shouting. This was normal now. Humans and other species mixing freely throughout the station. The isolation had ended. The barriers had come down. Guardian Wraith, a young Tentari child, ran up, breathless with excitement. Can Frost and Pearl and Ash play with us? We are having flying races in the recreational bay. Wraith looked at his hatchlings, who were already diving toward the child with eager chirps. If they wish to play, they may, but Lily goes with them. Of course. The Tentari child grabbed Lily's hand. You could be the referee since you cannot fly. Lily grinned. I will be the best referee ever. The group of children ran off together, hatchlings and various alien species all mixed together. Their laughter echoed through the plaza. I watched them go with a smile that held both joy and disbelief. Sometimes I still cannot believe this is our life, she said to Wraith. I understand the feeling, he replied. They continued walking toward the residential sector. David had taken a new position in station administration. I had been hired to help develop cross-species educational programs. The financial stress that had weighed on them for months had lifted. But more importantly, they were no longer alone. When they reached the shared quarters, Yuki was waiting with her ever-present datapad. She had become a permanent fixture in their lives, documenting everything. Her research had been published across multiple scientific networks. Offers for speaking engagements arrived daily. I need to show you something, Yuki said, her voice vibrating with barely contained excitement. She pulled up a holographic display. This is the communication I received this morning. Wraith read the message. Then read it again. This is from the High Council. The High Council of what? David asked. The galactic governing body, Yuki explained. They want to establish an official program based on what happened here. They are calling it the Halcyon Initiative. Cross-species family integration programs on stations throughout known space. I covered her mouth with both hands. They want to replicate what we did. Not exactly replicate. Every situation will be unique. But they want to create opportunities for families from different species to support each other, especially families dealing with displacement or trauma. Yuki scrolled through more information. They have requested that you 3 serve as ambassadors for the program. Travel to other stations. Share your story. Help establish new integration communities. David looked overwhelmed. That sounds like a lot of responsibility. It is, Yuki agreed. And you can absolutely say no. But I wanted you to see the offer. Wraith considered the implications. Traveling meant disruption. It meant change. But it also meant helping others find what they had found. Connection. Support. Family. What do you think? He asked David and Mai. I think we should ask Lily, Mai said. This affects her most of all. The children returned an hour later, tired and happy. Frost had won 2 races. Pearl had discovered she could do barrel rolls mid-flight. Ash had befriended a young Grell who wanted to learn dragon vocalizations. They gathered in the nesting chamber, all 3 families together. David explained the offer from the High Council while Lily listened quietly. When he finished, she looked at each of the hatchlings, then at her parents, then at Wraith. Will other kids get to have dragon friends if we do this? She asked. Not necessarily dragon friends, Yuki clarified, but friends from other species. Support when they feel alone. Like I had support when I was alone. Exactly like that. Lily nodded slowly. Then we should do it. Nobody should have to be as lonely as I was before I met them. Frost nuzzled against her side. Pearl climbed in her lap, even though she was getting too big to comfortably fit there. Ash draped himself across her shoulders like a scaly scarf. "That is our daughter," David said, his voice thick with emotion. "Always thinking about others. My wiper eyes. She learned it from the hatchlings. They taught her that taking care of each other matters more than anything else." Wraith knew the decision was made. They would accept the offer. They would become ambassadors. It would be difficult. Some species would be resistant. Some families would struggle more than others. But if even a fraction of them found what this family had found, it would be worth every challenge. "There is one condition," Wraith said. "Wherever we go together. All of us. The hatchlings need Lily. Lily needs the hatchlings. And I have discovered that I need all of them." "Agreed," David said immediately. "Agreed," Mai echoed. Lily just hugged the hatchlings tighter and smiled. The broadcast went out that evening. Commander Orvik had arranged for it to be transmitted across multiple networks. Wraith stood in the center of the station's communication hub with David, Mai, and Lily beside him. The hatchlings arranged themselves around the group, creating a circle of white scales and human warmth. "My name is Guardian Wraith," he began. "6 months ago, my hatchlings were lost and in distress. I searched everywhere for them. When I finally found them, they were sleeping peacefully with a small human girl I had never met. A child who had heard them crying through a ventilation shaft and had responded with nothing but kindness and understanding." Lily waved at the camera. Frost chirped hello. Pearl did a little spin. Ash just yawned, which made several of the station crew laugh. "This family should not work," Wraith continued. "Our species are different. Our customs are different. Our very biology is different. But we learned that none of those differences matter when measured against loneliness, fear, and the need for connection." David stepped forward. "We came to this station as refugees. We had lost everything. Our daughter had no friends. We were isolated by language, by culture, by the simple fact that we were new and strange. But these dragons saw past all of that. They needed help. We needed purpose. We found both in each other." Mai spoke next. "We are not special. We are not unique. We're just families who are willing to be open, to let fear become curiosity, to turn isolation into community. Every family watching this broadcast has that same capacity. The galaxy is big," Lily added, her young voice clear and confident. "Lots of people feel small in it. Lots of kids feel alone. But you do not have to be alone. There are friends everywhere if you are brave enough to say hello." The hatchlings chose that moment to begin their purring, the deep rumbling sound that meant contentment and safety. The vibration carried through the audio system, spreading out to every station and ship receiving the broadcast. Wraith felt something shift in that moment, a sense that this message was reaching exactly the beings who needed to hear it. Families struggling in the dark between stars. Children afraid in new places. Parents trying to provide safety and connection in an uncertain universe. This is the Halcyon Initiative, Wraith concluded. An invitation to build bridges instead of walls. To choose understanding over fear. To remember that family is not defined by biology, but by the willingness to care for each other through difficulty and joy alike. The broadcast ended. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Lily broke the silence. "Did we do good?" she asked. "You did perfectly," Wraith assured her. Within hours, responses began flooding in. Stations requesting information about the program. Families volunteering to participate. Scientists eager to study cross-species bonding. Politicians arguing about implementation and funding and logistics, but Wraith paid attention to the other messages. The quiet ones. The personal ones. Parents thanking them for giving hope. Children saying they felt less alone now. Beings from species he had never heard of expressing gratitude that someone finally acknowledged that difference did not have to mean distance. That night, they all slept together in the nesting chamber. Lily curled between her parents. The hatchlings piled on top of Wraith. Two families that had become one family. United not by species or tradition, but by the simple choice to love and protect each other. As Wraith drifted towards sleep, he thought about the journey ahead, the stations they would visit, the families they would meet, the challenges that would certainly arise. But he also thought about this moment, this peace, this rightness. His hatchlings had taught him something profound. Sometimes the beings we need most are the ones we never expected to meet. Sometimes family finds us in the strangest ways. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply open our hearts to the possibility of connection. Lily mumbled something in her sleep. Pearl chirped softly in response. Ash's tail curled around Frost protectively. This was family. Complicated, unusual, perfect in its imperfection. And it had all started because 3 baby dragons heard a lonely girl crying in the darkness and decided to answer.